Have you always wanted a muscle car in the UK? Have you struggled to find anything less than 25k? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about 6 muscle cars that I have found for the UK market or from USA to be imported for less than 25k overall. So hopefully you can enjoy this video. It's been a really difficult one to make this muscle cars video, so let's jump straight into it. I am Carter Ben. Starting with the first one is the Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z. The Camaro IROC Z is probably a very well-known example, especially from the Top Gear episode where they took it to Florida for under $1,000. And for that reason, they're still quite cheap. As you've seen there, I've found one for 14k. Now, obviously, that has been some time since then, and they are if they're in the UK, they do go up in price. Now, I have seen a lot of these in this spec, and I still think they look excellent for a 90s muscle car. And you can own one for 14k, and I actually have seen some for less than 10, so it's definitely doable and probably one of the cheapest ones on the list for today. They do come with a massive V8, and it is pretty awesome for that open road soft top, which they do come with. And of course, being a muscle car and a Chevrolet of its age, it actually will be a lot better than the older muscle cars that a lot of people might typically go for. So I do actually quite like these, and I have to give some credit for this one because it is an option that I wouldn't normally consider because it's sort of that late 90s period where they didn't make good stuff. But I think the IROC Z came out quite well. Coming in at number 2 is the Pontiac Firebird. Now, I'm not talking about this one, which is the 73 Firebird. That was very popular, and I'm not talking about the Trans Am, which had the square lights, which are flat. I'm talking about this model. Now, technically, I've done 2 cars here. This is the model from the 1979 Pontiac Firebird. Now, this particular car was not as popular as the other Firebirds, and for that reason, it just didn't sell in its numbers. And here's an example. So you can get one for 25k or less. Most of them tend to be just over that, but here I found one for under that budget, and it's really difficult to find a lot of muscle cars for under 25k these days. But this one is a really good example, and it's the late sort of 70s where you actually really want to go for that period where the muscle cars were massive, thirsty, roaring engines with V8s, and they started to slow down later in that transition, as we've seen in the Camaro. The particular Firebird that we see here from the 1979 model was easier to afford. Now, this particular one came in at $22,900, and to be honest, it is the ultimate muscle car for its period at its price. Now, obviously, you could go for a late 10 years older one, the 89 Trans Am with the 5-litre, which is still a huge engine in American muscle, but it's coming around that time when the Camaro was released, so it just isn't my type of thing, and I personally prefer the older version. But it is less money if you still want to get that muscle car. Coming in at number 3 is the Chevrolet Nova. Now, this is the Chevrolet Nova that came out in 1976. So I just want to clarify that I am not talking about the most popular Nova, which I will just show you right now. That model was, of course, used in Fast and Furious. Very, very popular model. Very expensive, probably well over 100k. This particular Chevrolet Nova is a model that came out much after that era where it was more boxy, and it was going into the 80s where cars were a little bit more square, and I think this is where the value of the car started to decrease, as you'll see it goes into the 90s. Now, this isn't a bad car at all. Now, if you actually look at it, it's still a coupe, still 2 doors, and it's got a pretty big V6 and 8 engine, depending on models you go for. You could rip it out and do it completely, modify it, but you can still see it's got muscle car pedigree, and I think that's awesome for a car that looks like this, especially if you were to drive this now. It still has an understated cool tone to it. Now, I found one here for £15,000, which of course if you import it brings it to probably about 17k for the UK, but brings it under that 25k budget. And I think with the engines that they were produced at the time were actually really, really cool. And I have to say, the Chevy Nova one was very underrated for this model. At my number 4 spot is the Dodge Dart Swinger. Now, the Dodge Dart Swinger is not a car I actually considered at all, and this is the oldest variation of its form on the list, so you will be picking up a car that is not too bad at a reasonable just under $15,000 for a muscle car, though, of the 69 and 70 age. Now, this particular one is 69, but you can go all the way up from their build production, which is 59 to 76. So great for a muscle car to pick up in its time. They can get these in 2 doors or 4 doors. Yes, they are a little bit rough, but it's still a car that wasn't as popular, therefore making it easier to obtain as a muscle car today. Now, if you want to pick one of these cars up, they are mostly in the US. Not a lot were imported into the UK, and there's probably very few. So I will show a picture of the original Dodge Dart, and there's obviously different variations of why these models didn't get as popular as maybe the previous ones. Now, of course, with the Dodge Dart, it is a fairly straightforward, small little car, so it is an excellent choice. Coming for my 5th spot, and we're going a bit more modern now, is the Ford Mustang GT. Now, the Ford Mustang GT from 2005, no later, of course, is the one I've gone for in this particular video just because it's really cheap for its price. Now, as we know, there's a lot of Mustangs around now, and they're still creating the Mustangs in its newest form in 2020 and 21. So these have obviously dropped in value and just not as well liked. I think these were the least liked of that year. But going back to the 2005 model, you can find yourself a good one for as little as £12,000. Maybe in the UK, you could probably get one for £9,000. I've seen a few at that price. So still an option to consider. Now, if you actually do the modifications on this car, it does look pretty awesome, given it in black, new wheels. Maybe make it look a bit more old school, but people can sort of do what they want with these. And to be fair, it still does have that Mustang pedigree. So it's definitely worth option to look at, whether just worth considering. What I do like about these is that they have been in every racing game from the early 2000s, so they're pretty familiar with our generation. Now, the problem with these cars is they are very thirsty in the UK, and because of their age and engine size, they never did an EcoBoost, so they became very expensive to run and tax. And my final option is the Corvette 1999 model, or mostly known as the C5. The C5 was created from 1996 to 2004, and this particular model is a 1999 model that I thought was an excellent choice if you are still looking for a modern muscle car for the UK, or if you live in the US, in fact. Now, I found one for a fantastic price of just under 20k, which I thought was reasonable for a car that is very American and just produces that incredible image and vision that you would expect when driving a muscle car. Now, it is a 5.7 litre engine and it is a massive. So again, it was made in that time period where if you drive this car in the UK, you will be paying high maintenance and tax to keep it. And it's always just something I like to bring up in my videos. But a car that I think is very iconic and has those pop-up headlights, and definitely is awesome in its coupe, convertible, or hardtop form. And again, was created into a Z06. So if you found one of those, it would probably be a bit more expensive. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please leave a like. It really helps me out, and I've gone to a lot of effort to do a lot of research around the cheapest muscle cars in the UK, so hopefully you can enjoy this video. Now, I just want to go over some honourable mentions. They are the Oldsmobile Cutlass and the Corvair. Now, the Cutlass technically isn't a muscle car, but for its price and what it looks like for its age, it was worth including, because I saw one of these at 10k. If you wanted a good one, it's 15. Now, I was going to include the Corvair, but technically, again, this is a sports car, and officially I couldn't really put it in the muscle car group. But hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.